You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
Hello everyone, this is your Kingerd speaking, coming off of a week-long cold and from the looks of it, a year-long interrogation with Hugo Weaving. Today we're jumping into the distrust that players seem to have with game studio developers and publishers. Now before we unleash the fury of 1,000 Ewoks on the like of Activision, Blizzard, or 343, first we've got to establish what exactly it means to lie. It might sound juvenile, I know, but it's important to establish our terms before we make our points. Oxford Dictionary defines a lie as an intentionally false statement.
You lie!
Merriam-Webster, on the other hand, defines it as to make an untrue statement with intent to deceive.
But they were all of them deceived.
And to create a false or misleading impression. Now notice something that stands out in these definitions. The word intent. According to the first two definitions here,
You've got to mean it, Harry.
now the third one doesn't mention intent, but it does mention misleading, and Merriam-Webster defines that as happening often by deliberate deceit. Not always, but often. Often. Alright, fine.
Often.
There, often. Now I don't look to Oxford or Merriam-Webster as the holy grail of all things correct, but the inconsistency here does beg the question, does it have to be intentional to still be a lie?
You agreed to stay away!
I lied, as I have from the very beginning.
We can accomplish anything, and we will accomplish everything.
What I cannot do is prove the intent of any of these studios. I'm not even gonna try. I'm not gonna make the kind of statement that they're legally lying. I don't know that. I'm just some clown on the internet.
Except you stay.
Now before we go any further, let me just say, I am not an attorney.
I couldn't think of a more horrible job if I wanted to.
So I called in a real one. I asked in his actual attorney opinion, can someone be found guilty of lying if what they said at the time they really thought was true? Here's what he had to say.
So, because we can't prove intent, and this video is for entertainment purposes only, here's how we'll define lie. When a studio promised a game or feature that it did not deliver by the time of this video's recording, regardless of intent.
As we move into the video game industry, keep in mind that explaining and justifying are not the same thing. I too have been a disgruntled gamer. But I'm still going to look at this topic as objectively as I can. That doesn't mean I'm trying to defend them.
I'm not your enemy.
I'm just explaining how I think it happened. Now there's a lot to be said about demos or gameplay trailers that end up looking nothing like the final product, or trailers with blatantly misleading tones or story implications. But today we're going to focus on what they said. So the first category up in our player perceived lies is the leaks.
Where's the leak, ma'am?
Things that weren't likely intended to make it out to the public, but ended up there anyway. Sometimes leaks perfectly forecast exactly what's going to end up happening, and other times they just lead to disappointment. For example, Modern Warfare 2 and its 2-year life cycle. All the way back in February of 2022, about 8 months before Modern Warfare 2's launch, reports came out claiming the game would have a 2-year cycle instead of the regular 1-year cycle. This meant cosmetics and microtransactions purchased would have more use than those in the previous games in the series because they could be used for 2 years instead of just 1. Almost a year later, in February of 2023, after the game had already been released and microtransactions aplenty had been purchased with Mom's credit card,
how much for the fluffy unicorn?
Reports came out from an Activision financial briefing that made mention of a new Call of Duty game releasing in 2023. What?
But you can't do this to me,
said players online.
You know how much I sacrificed?
You mean my silly, willy, goofy, woofy camos are only going to be good for 1 year instead of 2? This led to many players beating their chests at Activision online, saying they only bought skins because they believed the game would be a priority for 2 full years. As to whether or not that's true for everyone who said it, I doubt it, but I'm sure there were plenty of people out there who did think this and made a purchasing decision based on it. These players felt lied to, cheated out of their money. I mean, I'll admit, I thought it was going to be a 2-year game too. I was surprised to hear about Modern Warfare 3 coming out. So in my rigorous research for this video, ready to roast the ever-loving feathers off of Activision Blizzard for their treachery, I found...
Nothing.
Wait, what?
Nothing.
Now, call me a COD shill if you want to, which would be really ironic if you did. The last COD game I actually really loved was Black Ops 2, but I couldn't find an official announcement that they wouldn't release a game in 2023 anywhere. The earliest instance I could find mentioning a 2-year life cycle for Modern Warfare 2 was a report from Jason Schreier at Bloomberg. He does not work for Activision Blizzard, Infinity Ward, Sledgehammer Games, and he's a pretty well-respected journalist, especially when it comes to entertainment stuff. In his report, he claimed he had discussions with people on the inside who said it's going to be a 2-year game. Now, does this mean Jason was lying? No, in fact, I bet he really was told these things.
Looks like there's been a change of plans.
Now, is it possible that leaks can be used intentionally? They leak something out just to gauge public reactions?
So it leaked accidentally onto the internet.
Accidentally.
And I know that one of us did it. Like,
can we prove here right now in this video today who does that and who doesn't? No, but I'll bet no one at Universal could look me square in the eye and tell me they actually considered doing dinosaur-human hybrids for Jurassic Park 4.
What is that?
If it was truly a leak and it wasn't supposed to come out to the public, I don't think you can really blame a studio for changing their mind over internal discussions. Otherwise, players everywhere could be up in arms every time the concept art for a character changes.
Changes during development are why we didn't end up getting ghosts in Resident Evil 4.
Again, if I'm wrong on this, feel free to post a link to this announcement in the comments. I'll pin it, but I really couldn't find it anywhere.
So was the 2-year cycle for Modern Warfare 2 a lie by the developers? The Kingerd's verdict?
Not yet.
If anything, I think this category of leaks can remind us, don't put too much faith in reports and rumors, and definitely don't make purchasing decisions based on them.
Speaking of things spreading on the internet, likes and comments help a ton with the algorithm, so if you'd like to help the channel, please consider leaving a like and commenting. If you don't have anything to add to the comments, feel free to just put a happy birthday Kylo. For every happy birthday he gets in the comments, I'll give him an extra belly rub. How about that?
Now for the category that probably inspires the most outrage, the one we're going to call We Changed Our Minds. This is when a studio makes a clear, definitive statement and then later backtracks on that with their actions.
Well, that just sounds like
lying
with extra steps.
For this category, we get 3 examples for the price of 1. Well, this video's free to watch, but you know what I mean.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Showed off in 2019 and pegged as basically the sole reason for Overwatch 2's existence, Blizzard promised to shake up the Overwatch experience by adding a PvE mode with endless replayability and ways to play that had never been seen in Overwatch before. New skill trees, check. Abilities for heroes, check. It was more than enough for a lot of people to buy into the idea that an Overwatch sequel was necessary, because it sure wasn't for the differences in PvP. The only thing that kept us from being 100% sure Overwatch 2 wasn't just an excuse for them to change how they monetize the same game was the PvE mode. After the player base shifted to their new game and the Blizzard execs had successfully stuffed their mattresses with that Battle Pass money, Blizzard had this to announce.
But unfortunately, the effort required to pull all of that together into a Blizzard quality experience that we can ship to you is huge.
You serious?
It's clear that we can't deliver on that original vision for PvE that was shown in 2019.
Now the question that inspired the meme at the beginning of this video is, did they know they were going to do this beforehand? Well, if you look around online, a lot of people think they did. Now, I'm not gonna lie, it really looks like they figured out how easy it was to print off money with their slot machine simulator that is Diablo Immortal, overpriced skins and Battle Pass and the new monetization structure. Why bother coding a new section of the game entirely when we could just keep doing this? Not a comparable game, but a similar situation. With Marvel's Avengers, here's what the community team had to say about microtransactions.
So our promise to the community is that we won't have random loot boxes or pay-to-win scenarios.
You heard that right. No pay to win. The clocks ticked, the calendar changed, and a year after the game's release, we see this in the store. Well, why is this a problem, you may ask? More XP means faster leveling up. Faster leveling up means stronger abilities. Stronger abilities means easier to win. Pay to...
Oh my goodness!
So yes, despite their promise on stage not to include any pay-to-win microtransactions,
Our promise to the community?
They gave us exactly that, suspiciously close after they nerfed how players got XP. And our third example of a similar situation, here's what 343 CEO Bonnie Ross confirmed as the very first detail about Halo Infinite.
Can we reveal anything about the next Halo FPS title today?
I think the only thing that we'll confirm as we do listen to fans, there will be split screen.
And an announcement she made about the series as a whole.
For any FPS going out forward, we will always have split screen in going forward.
And then after the game came out, 343 wheeled out Joe Staten like Weekend at Bernie's because they knew the fans loved him, and here's what they had him deliver for us.
We have had to make the difficult decision not to ship campaign split screen co-op and take the resources that we would use on that and go after this list and all these other things that we're going to talk about in just a sec.
Now, are all of these examples accidents, just big oopsie whoopsies by these companies?
Oops.
No. You know why? Because they outright said it. Crystal Dynamics hit us with a "we didn't think this would count as pay to win." Activision Blizzard at 343 gave it to us straight. They were choosing not to bother with it so they could focus on the live service elements. You know, the things that make money. Now, I will honestly say, I don't think the studios send their people out on stage with the intention of lying. I think at the time they genuinely planned to keep their word on these things, but then, as development went on and budget got tighter, they looked at what they had and said,
We gotta drop the load!
This is what I meant when I said that when I try to explain, that doesn't mean I'm defending. I don't know what's worse, someone lying to your face or someone that you can never trust to keep their promise.
The Kingerd's verdict for Activision Blizzard, 343, and Square Enix.
Bootstrap Bill, you're a liar, and you will spend an eternity on this ship.
A lot of times it's not the developer's fault. It can be the parent company, it can be shareholders, it can be deals with publishers. Whoever's in charge and stands to either lose or make the most money can oftentimes step in and interfere with plans. Now, coming from a business background myself, I've directly seen the effects of what happens when upper management has little to no clue what's actually going on the front lines of the operation. So they make lofty promises that don't have a stormtrooper's chance in space Vietnam of ever actually coming to fruition. If I had a nickel for every Ewok joke I've made in this video,
I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right?
As for the outcomes of these examples, Marvel's Avengers ended up taking their XP boosters down, while Halo Infinite still to this day, almost 2 years after release, still doesn't have split-screen co-op.
And Bonnie Ross had a, family health emergency.
Overwatch 2 did finally release its Invasion PvE mode, but it'd be kind of like ordering M&M on Amazon and then opening your package the day it arrives just to see Pete Davidson. The only reason I think Marvel's Avengers actually conceded was because their player base was almost non-existent at the time, so they had no choice but to cater to their fans. While Halo and Overwatch 2, to very different degrees, Microsoft and Activision Blizzard probably have enough going on and money coming in from so many different places, they don't feel the sense of urgency to fulfill these promises. At least, that's how it appears, since they sure haven't stopped updating those in-game stores. Here's a fortune cookie to take with you. It's only a problem to them when their earnings report tells them it's a problem. Do with that as you will. And last but not least, the category I like to call "they had eyes bigger than their stomachs." This is what happens when a studio talks about things they want to add to their game, but through the development process they realize it's either too expensive, too complex, or it would take too long, so they decide not to do it, or realize that they can't.
The key difference between this category and the previous one is in the "we changed our minds" category, they cut or changed things that they didn't have to based on the profit margin. This category is about those studios that seriously were never going to be able to deliver what they promised.
I don't think this category would draw as much ire from players if the studios that make these kinds of promises would just change their wording up a little bit. We would like to add this to our game one day. We hope to eventually achieve this feature. Then I think people would understand. They'd have the expectation that it's not there now, it's not going to be there soon.
Maybe someday.
Now, I think we can all appreciate when a small team has big goals for the next project, but it becomes a problem when they start making promises they can't fulfill.
Don't make a girl a promise if you know you can't keep it.
Undead Labs did this well when they said they wanted to add multiplayer to their State of Decay games. They never said it would be in their first game, but they did say they'd like to have it in later entries. A lot of people weren't shocked when they finally said, hey, here's our confirmation, we can't add it into the first game, but it'll be in our next one.
I know tensions are high. Take that!
And you know what? Good on them not to promise the moon only to have to backtrack. So regardless of category, when is it okay for a game to release differently than how it was promised? Well, according to the disclaimers that are on just about every game nowadays.
Always.
Seriously, look at this agreement for Fortnite and Blizzard. Because I know you didn't read it when you first agreed to it. There's language in here that says you don't actually own the game, you can't sue the company, and any aspect of the game can change at any time without your consent.
You know, to heck with what you think is honest and fair. Now, I am sympathetic to the argument that we should hold smaller development teams and studios to lower standards than larger ones that make more money, but at the end of the day, a lie is a lie, a broken promise is a broken promise. Now, what's the point, you might be asking?
Tell me, what do you want? Peace.
Well, for one, we've got to take all unofficial announcements with a grain of salt. Protect yourself from overhype. If it doesn't come directly from the mouth of the developer or the publisher or someone involved making an official announcement, make like a Bethesda fanboy defending Fallout 6 and pretend it never happened. Secondly, if official announcements are made, just imagine for a moment how differently the gaming landscape would look if dollars were not made until the product was delivered, rather than when the product was promised. Excited about the next big game coming out or the next big update to your favorite live service game? Great! Wait till it comes out, see how it plays, and then buy your Rick and Morty skin. Disclaimer for those who emotionally fold like a lawn chair when they feel like they're being told what to do. Spend your money however you want. I'm just giving suggestions on how we can change the industry. Now, I understand that for a lot of you, telling you not to prematurely purchase a game is about as redundant as telling the Avengers to assemble after they're already standing next to each other.
Assemble, assemble, assemble.
But obviously there's not been enough consequences for these developers and publishers whenever they change the strategy.
Change our strategy and get something in front of players sooner. We chose the latter.
Or at least not enough for them to practice consistency between what they say and what they do. Now, spend your money however you want to. It's not likely that I nor my opinions will have any tangible effect on your life, but if I could leave you with anything, it'd be this. Only you can decide what behaviors are and are not profitable in the video game industry. After all, it's your money that decides who gets a second chance. They want to sell you the promise, but I challenge you to wait and buy the proof of the product.
Did Todd Howard lie about the planets in Starfield, or should we make a category called We Chose Our Words Carefully?
That isn't just a backdrop. That moon is actually there orbiting the planet. Yes, you can visit it too.
Ooh. It was flat. We just went right through it.
Yes, you can visit it too.
What games would you add to these categories? What categories do you think you'd add? Let me know in the comments, along with a happy birthday, Kylo.
If you'd like to assemble more people to the cause, consider liking this video so more people will see it, and subscribe for more Kingerd content. That's all I've got. Thanks for watching. Kingerd out.